Now let's discuss the another topic, why we need a constitution. It means what is the need of constitution in the country. So as we have already read that in a democracy every people have binded with some of the laws and rules and regulations. So in a democracy, constitution played a very important role to bind the people with that as well as to abide with the laws. In a democracy like our country, people are at the center of the political power where they choose their representative and through the election and allow them to rule on them. But to rule on them, it doesn't mean that they can do whatever they want. They are also binded with some rule and regulation, and that rule and regulation guidelines for them is provided actually by the constitution. So in the democracy where the country is governed by the people representative, the constitution play a very important role to provide them a guideline through which the government can be govern the country. Constitution not only provide the guideline, but it also specify some of the important features under which the government has to work as well as the people has to follow the rules. Like constitution defines the role and the power of the people elected representatives. So we can say that for proper functioning of a democratic government, constitution played a very crucial role. It defines the rules and power of the people elected representative. It means that the people, those who are govern the country, they knew that what are their limits and what are their powers. The member of parliament and the state legislative, which is legislative assemblies, which are actually elected through the Vidhan Sabha election or the Lok Sabha election, they also have to follow some of the rule and regulation, and they have some limit which is provided by the constitution. So we can say that constitution is actually based on a guidelines. The constitution is actually providing a guideline to the government, which are very necessary so that any of the political power could not be apply their monopoly, and they should be bind with some of the laws, and if they applied any kind of monopoly, then they can be discarded from their power. So in our constitution, or we can say constitution of any democratic country, frame some laws for the different purpose. What are the major function of our constitution? Now here we are going to talk about the Indian constitution, that what are the major function of our Indian constitution. So first of all, that Indian constitution serves the different purpose. Now which of the different purpose are there? So it played a very important role in our country to bind the people together and give the feeling of togetherness. First of all, it gives the provision of rule of law. Now what is a rule of law? Rule of law means that all the people of a country are same in eye of the law, and no one is above the law. A punishment would be same for the same crime to the people. It means maybe a person is a highest post, or it may be the president or a common man, but if they did a same crime, they will get the same punishment. So Rule of law means no one is above the law. All the people are equal in the eye of law, and the same rule and regulation will be applicable on all kind of people. There is no discrimination on the basis of race, racial discrimination, or discrimination on the basis of caste and creed. So, Constitution help to regulate the power of the government. It actually provide us a guideline, provide the government to the guideline that what are their working areas. Like the organs it define, we know that we have the three organs of the government: legislature, executive and judiciary, which are totally separate from each other, and they are given the stress more on the everyone's equal, means they can use the power equally but under their limits. Legislature makes the law, they cannot interfere in the judiciary work, but they can see whether the executive are doing work properly or not. Judiciary is totally separate, executives are implementing the laws. So in this way their works and the areas are definite, which are prescribed by the Constitution. Constitution is actually very, very important in concern of democracy. If we want to make the democracy successful in any country, then it is very important to have the Constitution. Constitutions are also actually two types. Some of the countries usually keep the Constitution as a book in a written form. In some of the countries, the Constitution are there in the oral form. Some of the countries are there which have the different kind of the government, like oligarchy government. Then country are having the religious head, where the religious book only become the Constitution for them. Now, to understand more clearly the Constitution, we'll find that the term Constitution come from the Latin word, and it means that an order or anything settled upon or arranged. It means a proper sequence wise. Something is given in a proper arranged manner. And if we talk about the Constitution in context of India, so it refers the specifically to a body, or we can say that Constitution is a body of rule and regulation and the provision that provided or define the fundamental political principle and outlines the structure, procedure, power and duties of the government. As I explained you right now, that in what manner the power and the functions are defined. In the same manner, Constitution provides the fundamental right to the citizen to provide the safeguard to the citizen, so that any of the government cannot be harass the rights of citizen. So we sum up this topic, our Constitution. So the Constitution word comes from the Latin word constituto, which means the order of or the anything that settled down upon or arranged. Then we can say that Constitution is a soul of democracy. Soul of democracy means it assures that the political stability and peace, as well as it maintain the rule of law in a country. As I explained you, the rule of law. Rule of law means laws are above to anyone. No one is above the law. All the people are same or equal in the eye of law, and everyone are bound in a country with a law which they have to follow. In context of nation, so the Constitution is a body of a rule, regulation and provision that defines the fundamental political principle, outline structure, procedure, powers and duties of the government. Whenever there is any kind of confusion between the powers of the different organs, or powers for the judiciary or powers for the executive, we can go to the constitution and find out the solution from that. We find that almost most of the independent countries in all over the world who follow the democracy or the monarchy or any other form of the government, their existence is defined by the constitution. It means they must have the constitution. Indian constitution was framed after the India when it got independence. In 1947, when India got independence, after that assembly was defined, in which the drafting and constituent assembly was there of the constitution, which was having around 360 members, who were actually find out the best constitution for the country, citizens of India. The freedom struggle, the national movement, partition of the country and spread of the communal violence were the words foremost in the mind of the leaders for the independent India, and they knew that if the constitution we have to frame, so we have to bring a constitution which would be in the welfare of all the section of the society. Means each and every person would believe in constitution, and it will be fruitful for each and every person of the section of the society. It may be the rich, it may be the poor people, it may be the untouchable people, or it may be the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, or the different Varnas. As such, our constitution has denied to accept the people through these differences, and that's why many of the laws were enacted in our constitution, like Untouchability Prohibition Act, in which untouchability cannot be practiced. If any person found guilty, then punishment is prescribed in our constitution. In the same manner, bonded labor, child marriages, many more practices were there which was actually declared illegal by our constitution. So Indian constitution is actually a widest, longest, bulkiest constitution in the world. Why it is so? There were many reasons. First of all, the constitution of India has made very late. Second reason, that we have compiled the constitution with a very important and fruitful laws, which was actually taken by the different constitution of the different country in the world. So the main aim of the constitution to give the country is that the constitution which fulfill the cherished ideal of the people for this country, and to establish a democratic society in which all the people should be treated equally and no one should be discriminated on any kind of basis.